The purpose of this video is to summarize the important parts of what we know about near-death experiences. I've studied them extensively, and this video is intended to save others the hassle. I have heard experts talk about this subject on talk radio. Before the age of the internet, I read a number of books dealing with the subject. I also had a few friends who read every book they could find on the subject, and I've had extensive conversations with them about the near-death experiences they've studied. I've listened to numerous YouTube videos on the subject. I have also listened to several videos which detail surveys that have been conducted on individuals who have had near-death experiences. I find these eyewitness accounts of the afterlife to be more beneficial about my views on the afterlife than any of the world religions. Everyone's experience is at least a little bit different, but there are many striking similarities between the numerous accounts we have of the afterlife. To summarize and generalize it all, when a person dies, they usually experience whatever they expected to experience in the afterlife. When people die, they will oftentimes look down at their body, see relatives, go through a tunnel of light, interact with other beings, and about 20% experience a life review where they get to see, within a few minutes or seconds, everything they did in this life, or at least everything they did that affected others. When people have a near-death experience, or when they die for a short time but come back, they usually see things that are consistent with their religion. For instance, if you study near-death experiences of Christians, they usually see Jesus Christ if they stay dead long enough. Muslims don't generally see Jesus Christ. They often meet Muhammad. Hindus typically don't meet Jesus Christ or Muhammad. They tend to meet the Hindu figure Krishna. After the near-death experience, most people stay within their own religion because generally what they experience is consistent with their existing beliefs about the afterlife. If any of the religions were true, I would expect the majority of people to come back from their near-death experience and join the one true religion. However, that does not happen, and the logical conclusion to make about the religions, based on the estimated millions of near-death experiences that people have had, is that none of the religions are true. If Christianity was true, I would expect Jews, Muslims, and Hindus to meet Jesus in the afterlife and change their religion afterward. This does not happen. Muslims will typically die, and if they stay dead long enough, they usually meet Muhammad. Hindus often meet Krishna. Also, within Christianity, individuals who have near-death experiences often have an experience specific to their own version of Christianity. For example, Mormons may meet the Mormon prophets who have long since died. Catholics may meet the popes and the Virgin Mary. Mainstream Protestants would not meet Mormon prophets nor the Virgin Mary, but would probably meet Jesus or perhaps other characters from the Bible. What people experience in the afterlife depends on what they believe in this life. From my time in studying near-death experiences, there's no advantage to being any one religion, and my study of near-death experiences had led me to conclude that all religions are false and that none of them are worth the effort that is required to follow them. This is probably why mainstream religions generally seem to make no mention of the great arsenal of information that is now available to us about near-death experiences. However, there are a lot of similarities from the testimonies of the massive group of individuals that have experienced near-death experiences. If you were to gather 100 people from cultures and religions all over the world who have had an extensive near-death experience and ask them to create a religion based on their accounts of the afterlife, they would be able to agree on some things with astounding similarity. There would be 3 creeds to the religion of those who have seen the afterlife. Creed number 1 would be that the most important thing we can do in this life is to show love and kindness to others. Creed number 2 would be that we are all one, and whatever you do to others, you are essentially doing to yourself. Creed number 3 would be that God is love. I would like to add a 4th creed. This would not come from the near-death experiences, but it comes from studying the near-death experiences of others, and that is that the dogmatic portions of religions are largely a waste of time because they pale in comparison to the importance of loving others. About 20% of individuals who have near-death experiences report having a life review where, in a few seconds, they see everything they did in their life. Sometimes they get to feel the effects of their actions on others. For example, when they did something that made someone feel good, they get to feel how it made that person feel. And when they did something that was cruel, they get to feel how that made the other person feel. This is just one example of how someone may die and adopt creed number 1 and 2. They often meet a very loving individual whom they describe as Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Muhammad, or some other religious figure. And often they describe it as a very intensely loving figure. This leads many of them to adopt the phrase that God is love. If I were to add creed number 5, it would be that the experience in the next life is just as real or more real than the experience of the present life, because that is what the majority of them report. If they were told to rank the world religions, they would probably rank them on how much they stress the importance of being nice to and loving others. This is not the focus of most religions. Most religions carry as creed number 1 that I am right, you are wrong, and you need to change your beliefs and adhere to mine and do my religious dogma, or you will go to hell. By dogma, I mean things like being baptized, going to church, giving money to the church, reading the Bible. For Muslims, dogma would include washing and praying towards Mecca 5 times a day and reading the Quran. Basically, all things that are strongly stressed in our religions are actually quite worthless to us in the next life. I would have to give the Hindus high marks because karma seems to be the central doctrine of that religion, and one could conclude that being nice to others is the most important thing to Hindus. Most Christian religions stress they are right and all others are wrong, more strongly than they stress the importance of loving one another. But the Bible gives us a different story. When Jesus was asked what is the most important commandment, he said loving God was the most important, and the second most important commandment was to love others like yourself. When he is giving the parable of the sheep and the goats, he said, inasmuch as you have done it unto the least of these your brethren, you have done it unto me. One would conclude from that parable that loving God and loving other people is the same thing. So, from studying Christianity, one would conclude that the most important thing is to love others. Many Christian teachers do not teach this, but instead preach the number 1 religious creed, which is that I am right, you are wrong, and you must change your beliefs and adhere to my dogma, or you will go to hell. If you ask a Christian to rank the importance of being nice to others, Christians who are aware of the passages I just mentioned may say that being nice to others is 50% of the gospel of Jesus Christ, and everything else put together is the other 50%. However, based on the surveys that have been done on people who have had near-death experiences, Christians in this group would probably rank others as being 90+% of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Unfortunately, I'm not able to comment very much on the other religions because I am not as familiar with them, but to me, there is no one religion that produces the nicest of people, and therefore there is no correct religion judging them by how they treat people or by how they cause others to treat people. While people are having their near-death experience, they typically do not focus on their religious dogma. Jews that die don't focus on whether or not the skin on their penis has been trimmed. Mormons don't typically focus on their Mormon temple underwear. Catholics don't typically focus on how many times they went to Mass or said their Hail Marys. Their religious dogma seems to take a back seat, and they often concentrate on how nice they were to other people, as if treating others with love and kindness was the main purpose of coming to Earth. In summary, the extensive records of near-death experiences which we all have access to online indicate that none of the religions are true, that they are all a waste of time except when they are teaching us to love others.